Here are the notes for slavery and trade. This is Chapter 7, Lesson 2.3. And this also concludes Chapter 7 for us. So if you didn't get all the notes in class today, let me give you some of those today, all right, in this video. Now, we've already set this up. If you weren't in class today, then you have to pause it right here and go ahead and type in your type in your notes. You know that you can go over to Google Classroom, and once you get over to Google Classroom, you can open up a copy of these, okay, and then you just pause and take your notes. And also, by the way, we did do an escape room on slavery and trade. So if you feel up to it and you can knock this out before tomorrow, before the end of the day tomorrow or end of the school day tomorrow, then I will include it in class craft. Okay. Now, so make sure that you pause it here and go ahead and type in your notes. Now, let's see. Like I said, we did the escape room. If you want to go check that out, you can. And these notes are for you. So let me bring up the notes for today. All right. So here, let me see if it'll let me write on this. This is really tiny. And maybe I can change this. No. When you put together your tree map, okay, because this is going to be a two-branch tree map. One side is going to have the compromises for slavery, and the other side is going to have the compromises on trade, okay? And you would just put this title in there, all right? So as you take these notes, make sure that you're going to put them into a tree map. So we discussed after the escape room the compromises on slavery. There were some states that depended on the institution of slavery, and they wanted to make sure that this Constitution protected it. So, and then there were, delegates or representatives who came from the North who didn't agree that slavery and freedom could coexist. So they had to compromise. On your notes, the first thing that they compromised on was how to count the slaves in the population. They said that for uh, every 5 slaves, 3 would be counted as free. And this is where we get the 3/5 compromise. It wasn't saying that slaves were 3/5 human. It was saying for every 5, because the North did not want the entire slave population counted as being represented. So the compromise was for every 5 slaves, 3 would be counted as free. That's the 3/5 compromise. The next thing you want to put and pay attention to is the slave trade. And so the delegates back in the 1780s and 90s agreed to end the slave trade after 20 years. After 20 years, okay? And then finally, the Fugitive Slave Clause. Okay, they wanted extra protections about slaves who ran away. So if a slave ran away to the North, they would not be considered free. They would have to be returned. They are not considered free, not free. Okay? There is a question in there that talks about Can freedom coexist with slavery? It's a rhetorical question. It's a question there for you to answer. Okay, it says here Benjamin Franklin definitely wanted to abolish slavery in Pennsylvania, but his views back then were in the minority. They were not very popular. So, obviously, today we would, definitely say that it doesn't coexist, but back then that it did. Now, here are the notes for the second branch for your tree map. Okay, and these were the compromises on trade. So, in your notes, you'll see something called the Commerce Clause, and this regulated trade throughout the country. It didn't let the states do that. It also treated the Native Americans here. Okay, this is whoops. This is did I save this? I did. This is Native Americans here um, as a sovereign country. So just like we would deal with Britain or France or Spain, it treated the Native Americans as a sovereign country with their own constitution, laws, customs, practices, and Native Americans didn't have to live under the Constitution. Okay, so that was to help relationships with the Native Americans. Another thing that the compromises on trade helped fix, were the coin and paper money issue. Because as you all know, each state had its own set of coins and paper money. It was really confusing, different values. It just didn't work. So the delegates gave the national government the ability to create and regulate coins and paper money. Last, in the full faith and credit clause, each state just needed to respect each other. Okay, they needed to respect their practices, their public acts, their records, um, and just have a basic general, respect for how they do things in their state. All right, so that is the Full Faith and Credit Act. Those are the notes. Let me give you the summary, and then you can pause it and type in your notes. All right, so the compromises were made on slavery. The compromises were made on slavery and trade because the southern states wouldn't ratify the Constitution. Okay, they wouldn't have approved the Constitution if they didn't get their needs met. Commerce and trade clauses made the new nation stronger and unified. Stronger and unified. All right, so that's it. If you need to go back and rewind, please do. Now you have the notes.